Morning students. Today we are going to see the last part of applied history. Last time we have seen applied history and our present. Today we'll see management of cultural and natural heritage. Now this cultural heritage can be tangible or intangible. Tangible cultural heritage refers to things that we can store or physically touch. Tangible cultural heritage includes traditional clothing, tools, buildings, artwork, monuments, and modes of transportation. So, we have seen tangible, that means exactly clearly seen to exist. It is a scientific fact that is not disputed. It means it is being touchable or real, something real. For example, the pyramid of Giza is an example of Egyptian history. Now this is all about tangible. Now what is intangible? Intangible means difficult to describe or understand, or we cannot touch it. Now, examples of intangible heritage are oral traditions, performing arts, local knowledge, and traditional skills. Now, intangible cultural heritage is slightly different from the discipline of oral history, the recording, preservation, and interpretation of historical information, specifically oral tradition based on the personal experiences and opinions of the speak. Now, intangible cultural heritage is passed orally within a community, means it comes from all ancestors to us. Intangible culture is the counterpart of culture which is tangible or touchable, whereas intangible culture includes song, music, drama, skills, crafts, and the other parts of culture that can be recorded but cannot be touched and interacted with without a vehicle for the culture. Now, these cultural vehicles are called human treasures by UN, that is United Nations. Now, Branch Rickey rightly said that it is no the honor that you take with you, but the heritage you leave behind. So, the objects, artifacts, buildings, places, and monuments are known as tangible cultural heritage. Tangible cultural heritage has a physical presence, and intangible cultural heritage are the traditions and living expressions inherited from ancestors and passed on the descendants. Now, this is all about cultural heritage, tangible cultural heritage, and intangible cultural heritage. Now, again, repeating that tangible cultural heritage includes ancient sites, buildings, artifacts. Now, what is artifacts? That is objects made by man, manuscripts, sculptures, paintings, etc. And intangible cultural heritage, this includes oral traditions, their language, traditional knowledge, social customs and rituals of celebrating festivals, for example yagyas and all, styles of performing arts, certain traditional skills, communities or groups who represent such traditions, customs, and skills. This is all about tangible and intangible. Now, next we are going to see that is natural heritage culture. Now, the concept of natural heritage gives the importance, the thought of biodiversity. Now, natural heritage refers to the sum total of the elements of biodiversity, including flora, fauna, ecosystems, and geological structures. Now, heritage is that which is inherited from past generations and maintained in the present and bestowed to the future generations. Means good things we are passing from past to the future. Now, here includes following things, that is fauna. Fauna, that means all the animals of an area or a period of time. Next is flora, that means all the plants growing in a particular area. That means flora, fauna, we can call it together, flora and fauna, that means plants and animals. Next, ecology and geomorphic characteristics. Now, ecology, that is living things and their surrounding, that means ecology. And geomorphic, that means relating to the form of the landscape and other natural features of the earth surface. So it is called geomorphic characteristics. So as a whole, natural heritage is the gift of nature, whereas culture heritage is associated with the man-made things and the things which were found during the phases of human civilization. We are knowing the many phases of human civilization. Now next we are going to see few pictures of ancient sites, building of monuments, artifacts, manuscripts. This is all tangible. Style of performing arts, community in the group, certain traditional skills. This is everything intangible. Now following that, you can, the last picture you can see flora and fauna. Again here you can see the sculpture, oral tradition and language, traditional knowledge, paintings, that means art, social customs and rituals of celebrating some festivals. We can see the pictures of tangible cultural heritage and intangible cultural heritage together. Now next we are going to learn about UNESCO. Now what is UNESCO? It is the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. Now what is the work of UNESCO? So it is essential for the benefit of future generations to preserve our heritage. UNESCO, the global organization, has announced some directives with the objective of promoting the cultural and natural heritage, and on the basis of those directives, list of sites and traditions are declared as World Heritage. Very important. It is declared as World Heritage. Now we'll see first one. To preserve and promote the natural and cultural heritage for the benefits of future generations, UNESCO, the global organization, have given some directives. Second, on the basis of those directives, the list of sites and traditions are declared as World Heritage. From India, it includes temples, caves, Taj Mahal, like architectural wonders, and national parks. Many national parks also included in World Heritage. Now in Maharashtra, it includes caves from Ajanta, Verul and Gharapuri in Mumbai. Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus, that is CST station, we all are knowing that, and Kas Plateau in Satara district of the Western Ghats are also included in the World Heritage sites. Now next we are going to see, that is conservation and preservation. Now, Archaeological Survey of India and various state departments of archaeology are in the charge of preservation of conservation of our cultural heritage. Now, what is archaeology? Archaeology means the scientific study of material remains of past human life and activities is known as archaeology. And what is the main aim of archaeology? That study and the document the development of human and their culture. So second, it is intact, that is Indian National Trust for Arts and Cultural Heritage, that is it is actively working in this field in India, and it requires the participation of experts from various fields. Now who are the experts here? Many experts here, those who are working for the many sites. Now next, conservation and preservation. After that, which are the benefits for the conservation and preservation of our heritage? Before that, how applied history now can be useful to create awareness about cultural, social and political history of the heritage sites. So benefits of conservation and preservation of our heritage. Now which are the benefits? Now, we can preserve and conserve and develop the heritage site without causing any change in its original state or condition. For example, we'll take any one fort. So if the fort is damaged too much and want to do the renovation of it, so not completely renovation but want to repair it, so without harming previous changes, we have to without spoiling it, we have to complete it or repair it. Second, we get information about social structure or challenges faced by local people and their expectations. So we should not change any local structure, or we should not do the repairing like this, that local people should not get hurt by that. So first survey should be done and then the work should be go on. Next, preservation, conservation and development of a heritage is possible without hurting sentiments of the local people. So we must understand that whenever the development work is going on, we should not hurt the local people's sentiments. Means with their help, or with taking them into what in taking all telling them truth, by telling them everything we can go ahead. Next, the participation of the local people in the project can be facilitated. Now we can take the local people participation when we are working. We can take their opinions. And last, planning should be done in such a way that local skills get encouragement and they get better employment opportunities of livelihood. Suppose we'll take the example of food. So local skills near the fort, we can give the jobs to the local people, like food stall or any small replicas of the fort. So local people can sell these things there better way. So this type of planning should be done. Next, we are going to see the affiliated professional fields. Now, knowledge of history can be supportive in decision making with regard to respective legal provisions and public policies in the following fields. First, Now these are the professional fields. First, museum and archives. Now what is archives? A place where old documents or official records and old films are preserved. They are known as archives. And museums means where we can keep the many historical things, or we can get an idea of the past or history in the museums. Second, preservation and conservation of historical sites. Now here also how means local people get here job to preserve and conserve the historical site. Museum curators are appointed. Here we can appoint museum curator. Now who is the curator? Who is the head of the museum is called curator. Next, entertainment and mass media. So here entertainment and mass media, here we can take the example. Suppose for example in your native place any fort is there and which is unknown by the people, so you can make the short film or short video about that particular fort and you can upload that on YouTube, and you can, that means you are making the publicity of your that fort or your native place. So in such a way also you can entertainment, or you can use the mass media to professional field which is affiliated to applied history. Now next, in the same, next, opportunities for professionals on projects in the field of applied history. Now here we can take the experts like historian, archaeologist, sociologist, legal experts, etc. Then technicians like engineers, architects, skilled photographers can be hired. Then again here also museum curators are appointed, or near to that related industries and business also can be done. So these many projects in the field of applied history can create various opportunities for these professionals. So now in this lesson we have learnt about the role of applied history in public training programs. Now for understanding the importance of history, or for creating social awareness regarding preservation of our natural cultural heritage, or using knowledge of history for this purpose to enhance the professional skills of peoples and develop industrial commercial field to carry out preparatory work or plan for effective implementation of heritage projects, etc. Now, at the last, it is essential to avoid vandalizing of historic and public places and to ensure that they are preserved for the benefit of future generations. Now, vandalizing. Here we can take the example vandalizing, that means destroy or spoil. So we should stop. We should avoid. Suppose we'll take the example of fort again. Should not write the name, or should not make any wall, we should not write something on the wall, so we can avoid this vandalizing of historical and public places. Here we have completed the chapter applied history, and very soon I will give the question answers of this lesson. Thank you, children.